Overnight, April 9th, 2003. A statue falls. Not just any statue, but the towering image of a man who ruled Iraq with an iron fist for over 2 decades. The world watches as it crashes to the ground in Baghdad's Firdos Square. Cameras flash, crowds gather, and in that moment, it looks like history has turned a page. But here's the truth, no one tells you. That moment wasn't the end of the war. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. Because what happened in those 21 days, what led to the fall of Baghdad, was not just a military victory. It was a collision of power, intelligence failures, political ambition, and a nation unprepared for what came next. This is the story of how a superpower dismantled a regime in weeks, but unleashed chaos that would last for decades. This is the fall of Baghdad. To understand Baghdad's fall, you have to go back not to 2003, but to a world already on edge. After the September 11th attacks, everything changed. The United States, under George W. Bush, declared a global war on terror. But Iraq wasn't Afghanistan. Still, attention quickly shifted to one man, Saddam Hussein, a dictator, a survivor, a man who had already fought a brutal war with Iran and invaded Kuwait in 1990. To Washington, he was unfinished business. The claim? Weapons of mass destruction, chemical, biological, possibly nuclear. Weapons that could, allegedly, threaten the world. But here's the tension. UN inspectors were in Iraq. They were searching, and they weren't finding much. Yet the momentum toward war didn't stop. Why? Because this wasn't just about weapons. It was about power, influence, and reshaping the Middle East. By early 2003, the decision had already been made. Diplomacy was collapsing. Allies were divided. The United Nations hesitated. But the US, alongside the UK, moved forward anyway. March 19th, 2003. The war begins. Shock and awe. That was the doctrine. Overwhelming force, precision strikes, psychological domination. The goal? Cripple Iraq's leadership before they could respond. Baghdad lit up the night sky. Missiles streaked across the darkness. Explosions echoed through the capital. For civilians, it felt like the sky itself was collapsing. For the Iraqi military, it was disorienting. The command structures faltered. Communication lines broke. And within hours, the message was clear. This was not going to be a conventional war. Coalition forces moved fast, very fast. From the south, troops surged through the desert. Tanks cut across open terrain. Supply lines stretched dangerously thin, but momentum never slowed. Cities fell one by one. Basra, Najaf, Karbala. Each with resistance, but nothing that could stop the advance. And here's where things get interesting. The Iraqi army didn't collapse in one moment. It dissolved. Some units fought. Others abandoned positions. Many simply disappeared. Why? Because this wasn't just a military breakdown, it was psychological. Years of dictatorship had created an army that relied on fear, not loyalty. And once that fear cracked, the system collapsed from within. Meanwhile, in Baghdad, Saddam Hussein remained defiant. He appeared on television, calm, confident, unshaken, but behind the scenes, control was slipping. By early April, coalition forces reached the outskirts of Baghdad. The city was tense, silent, waiting. Then came the push. U.S. forces launched what became known as thunder runs. Fast, aggressive armored thrusts straight into the heart of the city. It was risky. Urban warfare is unpredictable. But speed was the strategy. Confuse, overwhelm, break resistance. And it worked. Iraqi defenses crumbled faster than expected. Government buildings were abandoned. Military coordination vanished. And then, April 9th, 2003, the moment seen around the world. The statue falls. Symbolically, it looked like the end. But reality was far more complicated. Ansmen. Here's the part most people don't understand. When Baghdad fell, there was no plan for what came next. No clear structure, no stable transition. What followed wasn't order, it was a vacuum. Looting spread across the city. Government institutions collapsed overnight. Hospitals were overwhelmed. Museums were stripped of ancient artifacts, some thousands of years old. And perhaps most critically, the Iraqi army was disbanded. Hundreds of thousands of armed, unemployed men, suddenly without a state, without income, without purpose. This wasn't just a policy decision, it was a turning point. Because from that moment, insurgency became inevitable. As Baghdad fell, and one question dominated everything. Where is Saddam? He had vanished. Rumors spread everywhere. Was he dead? Escaped? Hiding? Months passed. Then finally, December 13th, 2003. He was found, captured near Tikrit, hiding in a small underground hole. A man who once ruled millions, reduced to a fugitive. The image shocked the world. But even that moment did not end the conflict. Because the real story of Baghdad's fall is not how fast the city collapsed. It's how long the consequences lasted. Insurgency grew. Violence escalated. Sectarian divisions deepened. And what began as a swift military victory became a prolonged and devastating conflict. Years turned into decades. Lives were lost. Nations destabilized. And the Middle East was permanently altered. So what really happened in April 2003? A superpower toppled a regime in just 21 days. But removing a government is not the same as rebuilding a nation. And in the silence that followed the fall, a new, more complex war was born. One that couldn't be won with tanks, or missiles, or shock and awe. Because the fall of Baghdad was not the end of a story. It was the beginning of one the world is still trying to understand. If you want more deep, cinematic breakdowns of the moments that shaped our world, subscribe to History Codex. Because history isn't just what happened, it's what still affects us today.